I'm very glad to have Julius here. Julius is joining us from Europe. He's a LinkedIn expert. I actually have worked with him before. He helps people improve their branding in LinkedIn, generate organic leads, organic inbound leads to LinkedIn through LinkedIn. So that's his specialty. So he is going to talk to us about what are the strategies, do's and don'ts in LinkedIn and how to generate organic leads.
Hi, everybody, once again, and thanks, Raj, for having me today. It's a pleasure. First of all, probably just to set the expectation, what I want to share with you guys today, because I understand that we do have some beginners, some professionals, some a good variety of people that they do use LinkedIn differently. So, what I want to talk to you about today, I want to share a little bit more about what I've been doing for the last couple of years, especially and what's been currently working quite well on the industry. I'll go through a couple of key components, what's currently happening in the industry. I'll talk a little bit more about the current situation in the markets, what are the best practices, do's and don'ts. We'll go through specifically through that, and we'll keep it conversational because at the end of the day, this meeting is for you. First of all, I think it's really important for me to explain who am I and what I do and what is my background. So I've been in the business for the last 5 years, but in general, I've been doing content marketing and sales for the last eight. I have a big passion in multiple areas in life. I'm a big sports guy, but also at the same time, I do like real estate as a concept, not only related to the work that I do, because I do work primarily with real estate investors to help them generate more business out of their personal brands, specifically on LinkedIn. And one interesting thing, just to make a transition towards the things that I want to talk with you about today, one of the interesting things is that 77% of the people that you meet them virtually. Like Raj mentioned, a lot of the investors that invest with him, he met them online because that's the reality we live in today. That's one really important thing to mention. And to break that down into even more specific numbers, we do have 5.2 billion active users on social media. Out of them, 1.1 billion users are on LinkedIn. And still only 1% of those users, they're active on the platform, meaning that there are a lot of opportunity and a lot of big things waiting there for you out there. So even we are big, there's still a big, rapid growth in regards of all of the landscape that we're living in. And the problem with all of this background that we're facing, that these people, they tend to grow their business via generic solutions like a blog or just a monthly newsletter or like a surface level AI content that is just educational stuff that's not sharing anything personal about you or just spammy email campaigns. So with that in mind, there's no unique brand identity and positioning. So basically, being on the internet for people means spend more money so you can be alive, basically. And with all of the situation, with all of this uncertainty, the gap between you and potential customer, it becomes bigger because people are not buying the same way that they used to. So with all of the technology, the AI, and growing influence on the social media, people just make decisions completely different. And if we take a look at some of more of the data, like how our decisions are being done, so a few really interesting numbers for you. 89% of decision makers say that thought leadership, social media content presence, personal branding can be effective in enhancing their perceptions of an organization. So, meaning if you're active and you create content, there's a 89% chance that the decision making you're approaching, they'll think highly of you. Another thing, which is also really interesting, that in B2B sales, almost half of the decision makers, 49 to be exact, say that thought leadership directly influences their purchasing decisions. Meaning, if they see that you're active and if they see that the things that you share they do align with themselves, meaning that there's a 50-50 chance that they'll buy from you, basically. Even more data to you. So, Nielsen They've figured it out in their recent study that 92% of their respondents trust individuals over brands, even if they do not know the person. Meaning, if you can showcase who you are, the behind the scenes about the things that you create, that you do, there's a completely different level of trust from potential clients, viewers as well. Also, Forbes, they've also found out that 82% of people, they're more likely to trust the company whose manager or a CEO actively participate in social networks. Just a significant impact on what could be done. And if we just to have to summarize all of this, baby, trust is created by humans, not brands. So at the end of the day, especially in real estate, the more I can understand and see with what I'm and with who I'm actually going to invest into the deals, it's probably going to be a big game changer. So basically, the fact out of all of this that I've mentioned, companies that see potential in personal branding, those are really the ones that are investing. A couple of examples for you. So if you take a look at Volkswagen, a big car company, if you take a look at their content pieces, like the engagement, it's good, not perfect. But for example, their CEO and his content, it's getting thousands of reactions of on his activity and people leaving comments, inquiring for the services. That's completely different volume. Another example, so if you take a look at SAP, the company, again, similar situation, quite good engagement, but not the perfect one. But again, once you take a look at the company CEO's page, that's a completely different case because as you can see, there are a lot of really good performance, a lot of really good stuff on all of his activity out there. So just to probably recap this introductional parts, the main question becomes how to make brands more human and eventually start getting clients. So the simple answer to this is three things, four to be exact: profile, content, and outreach, and a little bit of a patience. So we'll get into each of them a little bit today. I'll drop a couple of specific examples to you, some extra thoughts, some things that do work for me, for my clients. They do work just in general in the industry, and we'll go through that together. So before we kick off, what I would like you guys to do to go into your browser and press and search for social selling index. This. This is written over there. And then you'll press on the second link and you'll see this landing page. So let's do a quick practice, all of us together. And once you see this landing page, press on get your score. And in a moment, I'll explain what does all of this actually mean. Because just to probably say it in general, it shows like how strong your LinkedIn profile is. And this is exactly what we're going to take a look at. So I'll share the link in a chat and scroll down a little bit.
Okay, that's
Scroll
the
down a little bit and get
get
your
your score.
SSI
Okay.
score. Yeah,
Um,
it requests you to log in.
okay. So
Okay,
it's 55.
55 out of 100. I'll tell a little bit more. What does that mean? I see that Joey, he says mine has slipped a lot, 63, and I have not been posting or engaging. 63, it's not that bad. I'll say that to you. Good start.
I'm going to put the direct. Oh, now I logged in, but yeah, get this. Maybe I'll say copy link and put it in there too.
I've also dropped the link in a chat,
Mm.
so should be fine. But anyways, tell us, guys, if you can access it and if you can
You can
see
put your
your
score in
score.
there, and I'll put mine here.
Let's take a look at that. 55. Okay, 63. We had two numbers. Do we have lower, higher, similar? 59. Okay, that's nice. 55. Okay, we have a matching number with you, Raj. 40. Okay, cool. I remember you, Vinit, mentioned that you are quite new, so that's good. So what does that mean? So basically, let's say if you've got a specific score, so you'll see a few dashboards, basically. The first one, establishing your professional brand. So it means how do you position yourself as an expert in your field? So that's the score for this part. Find the right people, meaning based on your industry, ICP, your service. That's also something that's highlighted over there. Engaging with the insights, that's also something that's more related to the data. So upgrading and improving all of your activity as well. And last but not least, build relationships. So talking to people, outreach, communication. That's the fourth one. And usually LinkedIn drops a few stats, a few numbers down below here. So for example, you'll be able to see where do you stand at your industry or alongside people in your network. So a few interesting numbers just to check it out over there. And what does each of the number mean? So if you've got less than 45, it means your profile gets less by 20% profile visibility. If you've got between 45 and 60, visibility is neither bigger or smaller. From 60 to 75, it's 10% more profile visibility. From 75 to 90, 20% more profile visibility on the platform. And 90 plus, we get 30% more profile visibility. So that's just for you to understand where do you basically appear on the platform right now. And hopefully, after today's session and after a couple of implementations, we'd be able to rank ourselves a little bit higher. So moving forwards with the profile optimization part, I think this is one of the key and one of the foundational things that we need to talk about because there are so many different things that you can update in your profile. And we won't be going through all of them. We'll go through a couple of key components, basically. So, first and foremost, like this is the way your profile looks like. And the first impression, like the visuals, the messaging, the positioning, the approach, it's what is basically the most important out of everything. Because usually people do not scroll down below that much. So it's really important for you to focus on your banner, which is visible over here, your cover image, profile picture, and headline, which is basically like a hook that would ensure that the person reads like what you were trying to say to them. So profile picture, like it really has to be vibrant with strong colors or with eye-catching emotions and just to be able to sense you through an image. So a few really solid examples for you to understand what is a good profile picture. Also, a banner, again, at the end of the day, it's really important for you to make sure that it translates the main message of your brand and what you're trying to say to your potential customer. For example, right here, it's a little bit more official with a few highlights, a few mentioned companies that this guy has worked with, and it's giving a lot of different stuff and information. For example, this banner over here, it's highlighting the main message, the main question that this person's profile is trying to answer. Or for example, like this profile, it's very personal, orientated towards a few key components of the things that this guy is focusing on. So that's also really helpful just to understand the vision. And this is a little bit more visionary, something that you would create for a person that they are either going for a big mission or they're trying, to reach a lot of people with their audience. So a couple of examples for you. So headline, I would say it's one of the most important key points. And meaning if you have a good and eye-catching headline, it's going to help you get a better ranking at LinkedIn SEO because based on the keywords, based on what you say over there, LinkedIn is going to rank you and show you your profile for the right people. So meaning broader recognition, better integration on the platform. With the banner, we have a couple of options. We can go with a classical, really simple, like your position at the company, or you can go with a little bit more sales orientated, like for example, mentioning the kind of the people you work with and what do you provide for them, Or we can go a little bit more creative, showcasing what are you passionate about and where are you focusing on everything that you do. So it's up to you, like what is your angle, what is your approach? But I'm giving you a couple of examples that you can get inspired from. So with the about section, I would say you can go really simple. I have an example over here. At the end of the day, I do not want to know what are the kind of the services that you provide, like a pitch. I do want to know about you as a professional. So that's why it's really important to talk a little bit more about yourself, like your story, and highlighting a couple of key components in that about section so I can actually understand, can I trust you? Can I connect with you? Are you doing something that I can benefit from? So a couple of key components to understand and to be aware of. Before I continue, I just wanted to check in. Am I moving too fast or the pace is good just to catch up on everything? How are we doing?
Yeah, you're doing good.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Mike. With a featured, so featured is the part in your profile where you highlight a couple of key links. So for example, your posts, maybe you want to share your calendar link to book an appointment with you, or just add a social proof of the work that you've done. So this is also something really important to add to your profile. There is a part in your profile where you could do that. I've shared an example of mine that you can see. And as you can see, there are a few things to consider. With the experience part, my suggestion is super simple. Go with key responsibilities, key achievements, and done. Because usually the people they do go with like a small text of a bunch of different stuff, but just to help people out, make things really simple and structured. Like in an example over here on your right, as you can see recommendations, I think it's also something that it's being missed too often. So if you did some work in the past, if you've had a good conversation with an investor, please do ask them to share a sentence or two about you. And the more you can get these kind of recommendations on your profile, the more social proof you can get and the more recognition you can get from the platform itself and also from the right people. Because based on that, it's also going to show your profile to the right people, basically. Skills, that's also really important. So with the skills part, it's really essential for you to highlight the most important skills. Where do you specialize in? You can add a lot more, obviously, but the first three are going to be like the main three keywords about your profile, your activity, and everything that you do. So that's also something I wanted to put some attention to. And before we continue to the content part, I think it's really important for me to recap with the profile. Your goal is to hook them in, basically to get them interested. So they can respond to whatever call to action you have on your profile. Book a meeting, visit your website, subscribe to your newsletter, or do whatever else you want them to do. But just to have a good converting profile, it does take for you to be a little bit more personal and a little bit more specific on it. Because the more open, the more detailed we can be, the better the conversion we're going to have. So moving to the content part, I think this is something where we can get really excited because a few things to highlight about the content. A lot of the people that I've noticed they're creating content just for the sake of being active because they've seen that a lot of the other real estate professionals, they're also active on the platform. But at the end of the day, if your content cannot serve like an actual purpose, it's just noise. So before you press upload button on LinkedIn, ask yourself, what is the purpose of that content piece? Because every single content, it should have a purpose. And what kind of purpose? So there are five, basically. The first one, educates. So teach your audience something new, something valuable. Second, inspiring. It could be something that's uplifting and giving the audience a new perspective on a specific topic or a specific thing that you're talking about. Third one, it makes you think. So it's challenging, maybe it's controversial in a way, and it encourages a discussion or even debate on a specific topic. Fourth one, it's motivating. So it compels audience to take an action. For example, reach out, book a meeting, write a comment or something related to that. And then last but not least, drives action. It forces basically to take a action directly with your company at a given time. For example, have an open deal that's going to close, for example, by the end of this month. So that's the kind of the approach that we could give to the fifth example over here. And just to give you an example to it, so you can see on your right a content example. It's basically a post about how do I hate cold plunges. And this is actually something that I've connected to my daily routine. What do I do? How I do that? How I do things. And this is the best kind of structure how we can create content that performs in the most efficient way possible. So we do have a hook, body, and CTA. As you can see in the example over here, we have an idea in the middle of the content piece, and then we do have a clear recap ending at the very end of the actual post. So that's also something just to give to your perspective in general. Best performing content types. So I've tried to rank them in a way that it would make sense. So video content is not working that well as it used to work. The best performing content pieces are with the pictures and visuals, but not AI generated ones, but like an actual pictures that you can like actually see that there's a person in it. Infographics explaining difficult and complex topics, that's also really helpful. And carousels, so where you can swipe through different pages on a specific topic. So basically, if you can give me an explanation on something, how could I do, or something that I could achieve, that's also a really solid content type that's working quite well. Moving forwards, if you think about content even more strategic, so for example, if you're just the beginning of the content creation process, you should start creating content that just creates interest in general. So trends, stories, your own personal journey, maybe just like a little bit broader topics, so you can like actually drive traffic towards all of your activity. Then, if we're talking a little bit more about the middle of the funnel, the attract phase over here, we basically are talking about being more actionable, giving more specific examples, arguments, opinions, sharing your methods, maybe how you acquire the deals that you do or what your deals makes so special about it. And then we do have a content that actually converts. So testimonials, client wins, or like a screenshots or visuals, like clear CTAs that shows, that you are a reliable individual, reliable person that I could get a really solid value from. And if you're just at the beginning of your journey, I would advise you to divide your content something to like this. So 70% of your efforts should go into interest content, 20% into attraction content, and then the rest 10% into convert content. But if you have an audience but have zero leads, I would increase the content in the attraction phase. I would create a little bit more like actionable tips, real numbers, niche updates, talking a little bit more about the things that you do. But if you have only a few leads, I would just go even harder on the attraction part. As you can see, 60%, while 20% respectively in convert and interest phases. So that's with the content strategic approach, what works the best so far and what works the best in 2025. And just a few things, a few key things, I would say, when it comes down to just creating content in general, I would say there are a few key things because, again, there's a lot to say, but if I had to mention only a few, do not try to reinvent the wheel. For example, if you have an active website or if you have an already blog post or content in there, just rewrite them in a completely new perspective because they may be written half of the year ago and you would have a completely something new to say. Second, use different passages. So, for example, if you have a really popular topic that it's trending currently right now, try to come up from a different angle to talk about the same thing, just from completely different perspective, maybe your point of view that could be interesting. And last but not least, personal stories. Those are the ones that are working the best. So for example, acquiring your first ever deal, acquiring your best ever deal, or maybe losing a deal, or any other stories that are really like one of a kind and they didn't happen that often, but would be really interesting to hear. Like, how did they shape you as an investor, as an entrepreneur, and just individual in general? So these are a couple of things to consider just in general. And in terms of best practices, the best days and the frequency, I would say Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those are the best days where people are the most active. They do respond the most. Timing, morning, it's usually the most active time on the platform, but afternoon and after the day, those are also quite solid ones as well. And the frequency, I've just missed an R here. I see right now. I would say 3 posts per week. It would be a really solid beginning. But if you can't go with that, just go with 1, 2 times per week. Because at the end of the day, action always is what action is what you're basically going to help you move forward with everything that you do. So better to do something than nothing. And what to avoid, maybe just to talk about everything in general. Do not try to treat every single conversation as a sales call because trust is created, trust is earned. So try to spend more time building trust through conversations and being useful. Perhaps if you have an email list, offer them to get added on the list to keep them updated and in the loop with everything that you do. Another thing, so do not try to focus on yourself too much. Like talking about your deals, talking about your investors, the things that you do. Try to understand your potential investors and prospects and what do they care about. And maybe you already know that, but people, they do love when you ask them questions and when you make things about them. So then, in a way, it's a lot easier for them to trust you and just to, in general, lean towards having the conversation with you. Another one, which is a really popular one, actually, profile and content in third person. So saying that in about section, maybe Julius, he's a content creator, he's doing this and that, and just explaining about the person. No, try to be personal and telling a story about you, about yourself. So it would feel a lot more natural and easier. And last but not least, understand that LinkedIn's purpose as a platform is to create conversations and to create community. So do not try to rely only on the transactional based approach. Be proactive in the comment section, talking to people, connecting with people, and just getting to know them. Because again, this is something that people will eventually decide to work with you or invest with you because that's the best way for them to trust somebody with their money. And a recap, we're getting closer to the end of it. Um, Basically, human brand is the main component of landing your dream clients. So basically, if you can become more personal in your conversations, in your content, that's also going to be something that's going to help you attract a lot more with everything that you do. And what's next? Simple question, simple answer to you. I would say the three main things. So optimizing the profile based on the things that I've shared with you, and maybe think a little bit more about the purpose of your profile, like identifying the kind of the individuals you want to target and the kind of the strategy you wanted to apply to it in the meantime, so then you can write your next post. For example, one memorable thing from your career and just celebrate it, talk about it, or maybe just reintroduce yourself to your network, to your audience, because those kind of posts, they do tend to perform quite well. And that could be also something that could work for you strongly as well. A few key things for you to keep in mind. And as a small gift, since you came today to this meeting, I have a few resources to you. I'll pass along these resources to Raj perhaps, and you can access them, or you can just write me personally on LinkedIn, and I can just directly send those to you. So you can actually start winning on LinkedIn, and you can actually start leveraging your personal brand for getting more traffic and more clients. And probably the very, very last bit that I want to say, since Alex, he launched his new book over the past weekend, I think it's a good reference to get to. So basically, those who don't quit eventually start winning. So even if your post is not working, it's not going well, understand that this is the long-term game that we're playing because there's a lot more to it that's really important. And some of the things that you do not clearly see, but they are also helping you to have more and to have it all easier. So appreciate all of you being here today. Appreciate you listening and sticking to till this moment. And I hope you've got some solid and good value out of this. So it's your time for you right now. So happy to help and answer any of your questions that you have for me.
Great. Thanks, Julius, for the presentation. Connect with Julius on LinkedIn. He's on LinkedIn. And yeah, of course, I'm on LinkedIn to connect with me if you want to. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for joining.